Hi there, it's Adam Franklin from Bluewire Media, and as you may know, I am the co-author of the book called Web Marketing That Works, that my business partner Toby Jenkins and I wrote earlier this year, and it just got released last month. So a lot of what we actually talk about in the book is to do with social media, and this training video today is all about negative comments and how to respond and how to handle negative comments, because that's been one of the major things that we've been asked, and it's one of the major things that actually holds people back from getting started with social media. So we have created this template for you. It is brand new. It actually doesn't even exist in the book. We only completed it a couple of weeks ago. And what I encourage you to do is actually click the link below this video and download it. There's no registration required. Print it out. It's a single page, double-sided, and what you can do then is grab your pen and take notes as we go through this training video. So what you'll see on the front side, which is where we have got the examples, we've actually gone through and categorized each type of comment. There's 6 different levels, starting at positive and going all the way down to a crisis situation. And when Toby and I were putting this together, we wanted to give you some really easy examples so that you know what type of comments, fit into each criteria, and then you can actually take that example and tailor it to your own business. So let's start at the very top. You'll see up here, the first type of comment, level 1, is a positive comment. And of course, it's always nice to get positive comments. We describe it as any favorable comment. So for example, if you're at a burger joint, a positive comment on Twitter or Facebook, for example, might be, "My burger was awesome." And this is great. You know, you've got the option in terms of how you respond to that comment. Typically, you'd say thanks. And if you're part of a bigger team, if you're not just a solo operator, if you're part of a bigger team, it's really nice to actually take a screenshot of that so that you can email it around to your team and share the love. It's always nice to know that the work you're doing is appreciated. Now, if it was just positive comments, life would be really easy, but unfortunately, there's often ones that aren't positive. The next category down, I would call level 2, which is a neutral comment. So neither good nor bad. For example, at the burger joint, somebody might do an Instagram picture and say, "I'm having a burger for lunch." So not good, not bad. Again, the way you respond to this comment is optional. You may comment, you may just let it slide. It's really up to you. But it is actually a good opportunity to engage in conversation, because if somebody's at your burger joint or at your business, for example, and they comment, it's really nice if you can demonstrate to them that you as the business are listening, and you can actually ask them a question or thank them for coming along to have a burger at your cafe, or whatever the case is for your actual business. All right, for 3 to 6 is when things start to get a little bit ugly, but the best thing to know is that if you've got a plan in place, then you're prepared for these situations, because everybody, regardless of their business, is going to get negative comments at some point. And instead of worrying about it, view it as an opportunity to identify problems that can be easily, hopefully, fixed and remedied. Because if you've got a customer who hasn't had a great experience, you then know who they are, and you can fix that and address that situation and hear them out. Whereas previously, before social media existed, if you had a negative comment, there wouldn't be any way for you to actually know, and you wouldn't have a way to respond. So firstly, let's look at a negative comment that you do respond to. So this is level 3. A genuine negative comment. And by genuine, I mean that it's from an actual person, an actual customer, or an actual prospective customer. An example of this type of comment, might be probably not LinkedIn for a burger joint. It's probably Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. "My burger was cold and took forever." So with this, they're actually in your cafe or a part of your business, and they've made a comment like that. What you do in these situations is take a screenshot. Whenever you get negative comments, the first thing to do is always to get a screenshot so that it's documented. Then the way to handle that is to do what they call the 3 A's: acknowledge, apologize, and act. act to resolve the issue, and then follow up to make sure it's done. So you might acknowledge them, typically on the same social platform that the negative comment came up on. You might say, look, I've seen your comment. I'm sorry that the burger was cold and took forever. What's your phone number or what's your email address so that we can get in touch so that we can fix this problem for you. That way you're acknowledging it, you've apologized, but most importantly, you're actually demonstrating that you want to fix the problem. And in 99% of the case, negative comments come from people who genuinely just want to be heard and just want to be, shown a little bit of love and have their situation fixed. So by doing this with social media, you can resolve 99.9% of the problem. And then it's always worth just following up to make sure that, say for example, you sent them a burger voucher in the mail so that next time they came to your burger joint, they could have a free meal on you. It's always worth just following up to make sure that they got everything and that the situation has been resolved. All right, so category 4, next one down, negative comments that you actually ignore. Now, most of the time, it's not wise to ignore comments because really it shows that you're not listening and that you don't care. However, there are a few situations where it's actually wise to ignore comments. And it's wise to ignore comments when you're getting negative comments by trolls. And if you're not familiar with the idea of a troll, they are deliberate troublemakers that go around the internet and try and pick fights with people. They're not genuine customers. They're not people who are ever going to be a customer or a buyer. They're just out to cause trouble. And an example of a troll comment might be, again, with this cafe burger joint example, burgers are evil and so are the people that eat them. And so that's a negative comment. They're just in there trying to start a fight. They're trying to get you to rise to the bait, to come in and say, well, people that eat burgers aren't all evil, or burgers aren't evil. And if you rise to the bait, then you've engaged in a fight with them, and that's what they're about. So again, what I would do is to still take a screenshot. Again, you want to document everything, particularly if you're a company or a corporation. You need to have a record of all of this stuff. Now, there's two ways to handle it. One is to potentially warn the troll that they're being out of line, and then potentially block them if necessary. But what I choose to do and what I advocate to clients to do is ignore them. The rule of thumb is don't feed the trolls, because otherwise they come back and they target you because they know that you respond. If you ignore them, they go and bully somebody else. Of course, sometimes when you get your first comment from a troll, you may think that it's actually a genuine customer. And that's perfectly fine too, because you would want to actually probably go through that level 3 process, acknowledge, apologize, and act. Because sometimes you think it could be a genuine person, a genuine customer. But when you realize that it's not, and you realize that they're a troll and they're just coming back to cause trouble, that's when you certainly feel free to ignore them and block them if necessary. But sometimes blocking them can just antagonize them even more, and they might come back under a different alias and give you an even harder time. So again, I think just ignore them. Okay then, when things get even more serious, we're talking level 5, which is a negative comment that you remove. Again, often if you remove negative comments, it antagonizes people and it throws fuel on the fire, and you're better off leaving it there and just responding nicely. But that only works if, one, it's a genuine person, like a category 3. If it's category 5, then it's offensive, it's malicious, or it's spam. Or in some way it's breached your house rules. And house rules is essentially basically your terms, it's your rules, it's your blog, it's your Facebook page. You set the rules, just like when someone comes into your house or your office or your place of business. If they were misbehaving, you'd ask them to leave, because everybody's got to treat people with respect, and good manners are always expected. So if it breaches your house rules in any ways, then, for an example, my waitress was a swear word. So, for example, in that burger joint, if somebody did leave an offensive comment, like giving your waitress a hard time and calling her names, then in my opinion, that breaches house rules, because you wouldn't expect people that you'd throw them out of your restaurant if they were carrying on like that in person. So if they're carrying on like that in your store or in your cafe or in your business, then you're entitled to remove them. So again, the process is take a screenshot and then remove the comment, but also explain why. This is the most important part, because if you just remove negative comments, people will think you're just trying to take stuff off and hide it, which is bad, and people will just really come in and make lots more negative comments and ask why you deleted it. That's bad. But if you actually explain why you've deleted it, then that is perfectly okay. So you'd basically explain that it's breached your house rules. In this example, you'd say, this comment's been deleted because it was offensive to me and to my waitress. We've deleted it because it breached house rules. Then you'd warn the offender and block them if necessary. And I think, again, when you remove people like this from your social media platform, just like in real life, if you remove an unruly, misbehaving customer from the burger joint, the other customers will be very grateful and appreciative that you've taken the stand and you've kicked them out. Same goes with social media. The other thing also, when you've got a community of people around your business, then they will also come and support you, and they may even say their piece and explain to this person that sort of behaviour is unacceptable on this Facebook page, and then they'll be very grateful when you, as the page owner, boot them off. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, level 6. This is when things go really pear-shaped in a crisis situation. And the way we define a crisis situation on social media is basically where there's legal or criminal ramifications. So, for example, threats of violence, maybe breaches of confidentiality, particularly if you're a financial institution or a medical or health institution, defamation, or a PR disaster. And of course, there's plenty of examples of PR disasters that hit the press almost on a weekly basis. These are all examples of what I would call a crisis situation, because it needs to be escalated to legal or the police, or very often your PR department, because it's such a big fiasco or catastrophe that you need other people's help. So for example, in this burger joint theme, a comment might be, I'm going to burn down this burger joint. Now you can see how that's a threat, there's violence, it could be a very dangerous situation. And again, in that situation, you really want to act quickly. You definitely want to get a screenshot, and you also want to escalate it immediately to either the police or to your legal department or to management or your PR team, depending on the type of comment it is. And there are examples that Toby and I have actually spoken about in the book, threats of sexually explicit threats that have been made through Facebook. And the story, if you've listened to our podcast or if you've read the chapter in the book, a guy left, I won't even repeat it, it's too disgusting to actually repeat, but this person left a comment on Facebook, it got escalated to the police, and actually the police had been monitoring this guy for a while, and they came in, picked him up, and he spent the night in jail because of what he'd written on his Facebook page, and of course because of his behaviour leading up to that point as well. But these sorts of things, you can't control what people say in real life, and you can't control what people say on social media. And there's always going to be a small element of society that are, troublemakers, whether they're trolls or whether they're criminals. And you need to have a plan of attack in place for the unlikely event that these people speak up on your page. So they are the 6 different levels of comments, from positive, neutral, all the way through the negative comments to a crisis situation. So I hope that gives you a framework for actually understanding all the different types of comments that you can receive, and also a process for responding to them. So that's the front side of the template. The back side now is the blank side, where you can fill it in for your own organisation. So flip it over, I'll just click through to the next page, and what you'll see here is blank spots for examples for you to fill in. So to make it easy for you, what you can do is you can look at one side or hit pause and rewind and watch this video again. But for each of these types of categories, like level 1, level 2, have a chat with your team, think about it yourself. What's an example of something positive? And these are always nice ones. Oh, this dress fits really nicely. Oh, I really love my experience with my accountant. All of those types of things are examples of positive comments. How do you respond to them? Well, typically you'd say thank you, maybe even share it with your team. And what I've added on this backside of the template for you is a column called Who's Responsible. And this is important because there's got to be somebody in your team. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's me. It is often myself or Toby, depending on the social media platform. But who's responsible for 1, responding, or 2, taking the screenshot and documenting it and escalating it, deleting it, or responding appropriately? So the idea here is to actually go through, for neutral comments, what's the response process? Do we always say thank you? Do we sometimes say thank you at the discretion of, say, a marketing manager? And if so, who is that marketing manager? What's their name? And document it on this so that you know and your company knows exactly what needs to happen in these situations. And again, work your way down. A negative comment that you respond to. What's a negative comment that you ignore? For example, as I said in the start of the video, the first time you get a negative comment from a troll, you might think it's a real customer. And then they turn out just to be a troublemaker. And then, okay, so we've identified this person as a troublemaker. We've documented it. We know who they are. Maybe we block them. Probably we ignore them. And maybe the marketing manager is responsible for that. But make sure you actually put something in each of these boxes, because then you've got a fully documented plan of attack to handle negative comments when they occur on social media. Negative comments remove if it breaches your house rules. So again, decide what your house rules are. And there's some really cool examples actually. Tim Ferriss has a great one. Mia Friedman has a great one on Mamma Mia. I might even actually just pull that up for you. So if we go to Tim Ferriss's 4-hour blog, then what we'll see is in his comments section, and I'll read it out for you, you've got a very clear expectation set for everybody else of what is and isn't acceptable. So we'll go down to the bottom, we will hit read more, and we scroll down to the comments and his comments rules. Remember what Fonzie was like? Cool. That's how we're going to be. Cool. Critical is fine, but if you're rude, we'll delete your stuff. Please do not put your URL in the comment text, and please use your personal name or initials and not your business name, as the latter comes off as spam. Have fun, and thanks for adding to the conversation. And he's actually attributed this fella Brian for the inspiration for his house rules. So you can do something exactly like that. Make sure it's clear on your blog, for example, and that way when you do get negative, if you do get negative comments, you can very easily say, look, we've deleted this comment because it was breaching our house rules. So I hope that gives you a good example of what house rules are, how to apply it to your own website. And then finally, just to recap, category 6, a crisis. That's when there's legal or criminal ramifications, and often a PR disaster has legal ramifications because you need to actually contact the lawyers to work out what's been said, what's going on, how do we respond to all this. Think of BP or sometimes Qantas or Domino's. There's lots of examples of these crisis situations where whoever's in charge of the social media would have had to escalate it to management or police or lawyers. So again, think about what that might constitute for your business. It can vary because it just can. Breach of confidentiality, if you're in a financial institution or you're a doctor, would be a huge crisis, whereas it may not be quite as dangerous or have quite as many implications if you're not. But certainly threats of violence, anything like that, defamation, PR disasters are certainly examples that you want to document here. Again, have your response process and document who is responsible. Okay, that brings this second training video to a close. We really hope you find the template useful. As we said, it's brand new. It was created just last week by Toby and myself, and It is a free download. If you like the video and if you like the template, please feel free to tweet it, share it with your friends, and leave a comment down below in the Facebook comments. And we will see you next week for another training video on social media guidelines and how to document them and how to get them across your organisation so that everybody's on the same page, understanding what they can and what they can't do. Again, if you've got questions, email me, adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au and Twitter @Franklin_Adam. All right, see you later.